The morning sun cast long shadows across the crystal gardens of Terra Prime as Dr. Marcus Webb walked the peaceful paths to his office. 3,000 years had passed since the last human conflict, and the world showed it. Buildings curved like living trees, their walls transparent and filled with flowing water. Children laughed as they played in floating parks that drifted slowly through the city's vertical gardens. Marcus worked at the Galactic Communications Center, a place that usually handled routine messages between Earth's 847 colony worlds. Trade reports, scientific discoveries, birth announcements, the gentle business of a civilization that had forgotten how to fight. As the director of xenological studies, Marcus spent his days cataloging the peaceful species they occasionally encountered in their slow expansion across the stars. This Tuesday started like any other, until his assistant, Jenny, burst through his office door with wide eyes. "Dr. Webb, you need to see this immediately," she said, her voice shaking slightly. Marcus looked up from his morning tea, a blend from the agricultural worlds of Kepler 442. "What is it, Jenny? Another discovery from the science teams?" "No, sir. It's a message. From aliens, and they're not asking to be friends." Marcus frowned. In 3 millennia, humanity had encountered 17 different alien species, all peaceful traders or curious explorers. The standard protocol was always the same: exchange pleasantries, share scientific data, maybe establish a small trading post. Nothing more complicated than that. Jenny activated the holographic display in Marcus's office. The image that appeared made him nearly drop his teacup. The creature on screen stood nearly 8 feet tall, covered in dark scales that reflected the harsh light of what looked like a military command center. Red eyes glared from a reptilian face filled with sharp teeth. Behind the alien, Marcus could see other creatures moving around what were clearly weapon control stations. The alien began to speak in perfect English, though its voice carried a hissing quality that made Marcus's skin crawl. "Primitive humans of the third spiral arm," the creature began. "I am War Commander Thexkar of the Zephyrian Empire. Your species has been judged inferior and marked for conquest. You will surrender all worlds, all resources, and all population centers to our rule within 30 of your solar rotations." Marcus stared at the hologram, his mind struggling to process what he was hearing. Conquest, war? These were words from the history books, not reality. The alien continued. "Do not mistake this for negotiation. The Zephyrian Empire has conquered 17 species across this galactic sector. Your peaceful research vessels and garden worlds will provide no defense against our battle fleets. Submit now and your deaths will be quick. Resist and we will make your species extinct slowly, world by world, system by system." The message ended abruptly, leaving Marcus staring at empty air where the hologram had been. Jenny stood frozen by the door, her face pale. "Sir?" she whispered. "What do we do?" Marcus set down his tea with hands that trembled slightly. We call the Confederation Council. Immediately." Within hours, the emergency session was called. Representatives from all human worlds gathered in the great amphitheater of Terra Prime, their faces showing confusion more than fear. Most had never heard the word war spoken seriously in their entire lives. Chancellor Elena Vasquez, a woman in her 70s whose grandmother had been born on Mars, stood at the center podium. Her voice carried the same bewilderment that filled the room. "Fellow humans," she began, "we face something our species has not encountered for 3,000 years. A hostile alien force that demands our surrender." She paused as if the words felt strange on her tongue. "They call themselves the Zephyrian Empire, and they claim to have conquered 17 other civilizations." Murmurs filled the amphitheater. Representative Johnson from Alpha Centauri raised his hand. "Chancellor, surely this is some kind of misunderstanding. Perhaps their translation systems are malfunctioning? No species wages war in the modern era." "That was my first thought as well," the Chancellor replied. "But our linguistic experts have confirmed the accuracy of their translation. They are without question threatening to attack us if we do not surrender our worlds." Dr. Sarah Chen, the elderly curator of the War Memorial Museum, stood slowly in the back of the room. At 93, she was one of the few people alive who had actually studied human military history in detail. "Chancellor," she called out, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber, "may I suggest we access the historical archives, specifically the military protocols from the consolidation period?" A strange silence fell over the room. The consolidation wars had ended in 2024, but they were ancient history now. Most people knew about them the same way they knew about dinosaurs. Interesting artifacts from a primitive past. Dr. Chen, the Chancellor, said carefully, "Those protocols haven't been accessed in over 2,000 years. We're a peaceful civilization now. We don't have military forces or weapons of war." Dr. Chen smiled sadly. "With respect, Chancellor, we chose not to use them. That doesn't mean we don't have them." The statement sent a ripple of confusion through the assembled representatives. What did she mean? Dr. Chen continued, her voice growing stronger. "The reason humanity achieved peace 3,000 years ago wasn't because we became weak. It was because we became too strong to need conflict. Every human world, every station, every ship was designed with dual purposes. We simply stopped activating the secondary functions." Representative Williams from the Tau Ceti colonies looked puzzled. "Dr. Chen, are you suggesting our peaceful research vessels and agricultural worlds could somehow be converted into military assets?" "I'm not suggesting it," Dr. Chen replied. "I'm stating it as historical fact. The Treaty of Universal Human Peace wasn't signed because we couldn't fight anymore. It was signed because we had gotten so good at fighting that continuing would have been pointless." Chancellor Vasquez leaned forward. "Dr. Chen, I'm going to ask you directly. Do you believe humanity retains the capability to defend itself against this Zephyrian threat?" The old curator was quiet for a long moment. Around her, 800 representatives from 800 worlds waited for her answer. Finally, she spoke. "Chancellor, 3,000 years ago our ancestors fought the most devastating wars in galactic history. They developed weapons that could crack planets and shields that could stop stars. They created battle tactics so advanced that military historians are still studying them today. All of that knowledge, all of those capabilities, were carefully preserved and hidden away when peace was achieved." She paused, looking around the great amphitheater. "The question isn't whether we can defend ourselves. The question is whether we remember how." As the session ended and representatives began the long journey back to their worlds, deep beneath Terra Prime, ancient computers that had slept for millennia began to stir. Security protocols that hadn't been active since the 21st century started their activation sequences. On 847 worlds across human space, similar systems awakened. The Zephyrians had given humanity 30 days to surrender. They had no idea what they had just woken up. 23 days after the Zephyrian ultimatum, the aliens made their first mistake. They arrived early. Captain Elena Rossi was conducting a routine mineral survey on Proxima Station when her sensors detected the massive energy signatures dropping out of hyperspace. The research station orbited Proxima Centauri's third planet, home to 50,000 scientists, engineers, and their families who studied the unique crystalline formations found in the system. Elena had commanded survey vessels for 15 years and had never seen anything like what appeared on her screens. 12 massive ships, each one larger than any human vessel ever built, arranged themselves in attack formation around the peaceful station. "This is Captain Rossi of the research vessel Terra Nova," she broadcast on standard diplomatic frequencies. "Unknown vessels, please identify yourselves and state your intentions in human space." The response came immediately, and it wasn't diplomatic. The largest alien ship fired a single weapon. Elena watched in horror as a beam of pure energy struck Proxima Station's central hub. The massive research facility, home to thousands of peaceful scientists, simply vanished. One moment it existed, the next there was nothing but expanding gas and debris. Elena stared at her screens in shock. The 50,000 people on that station had been vaporized in seconds. Men, women, children who had never hurt anyone in their lives. Destroyed without warning or mercy. The alien communication came through on the same frequency Elena had used moments before. "Humans of the pathetic research station," the voice hissed. "This demonstration was broadcast to all your worlds. You now have 7 days to surrender, not 30. Resist further, and we will destroy your colonies one by one until nothing remains but space dust and memories." Elena's hands shook as she activated her ship's emergency beacon. Within hours, the news had spread across all of human space. The Zephyrians hadn't just made a threat. They had murdered 50,000 innocent people to prove their point. But instead of the panic the aliens expected, something different happened across human civilization. Something the Zephyrians didn't understand. Dr. Sarah Chen sat in the emergency session of the Confederation Council, watching as the reports came in from every human world. The reaction wasn't fear. It wasn't desperation. It was something much more dangerous. "Chancellor," reported Admiral David Park from the Vega colonies, "our shipyards are requesting permission to begin Protocol 7 modifications. The civilian fleet wants to know if they should start emergency conversions." Chancellor Vasquez looked confused. "Admiral, we don't have military protocols anymore." "What is Protocol 7? Dr. Chen stood up slowly. "Chancellor, with your permission, I believe it's time to unseal the historical archives. All of them. Dr. Chen, we're facing a crisis. This isn't the time for history lessons." "Chancellor," Dr. Chen said quietly, "this is exactly the time for history lessons. These aliens think they know what they're dealing with. They think they're attacking a weak, peaceful species. They have no idea what humanity actually is." She walked to the center of the chamber, her voice carrying to every representative. 3,000 years ago, when the last human war ended, our ancestors made a choice. They could destroy all weapons, all military knowledge, all capacity for violence, or they could hide it away, locked behind codes and protocols, waiting for the day it might be needed again. She activated a holographic display that filled the center of the amphitheater. They chose to hide it. "Every research vessel in our fleet carries military-grade shields and weapon systems, locked behind emergency protocols. Every agricultural world has weapon manufacturing facilities built into their industrial complexes, dormant but ready. Every civilian space station has defensive capabilities that their crews don't even know exist." The hologram showed technical specifications that made several representatives gasp. Ships they thought were simple research vessels revealed hidden weapon bays and armor plating. Peaceful orbital platforms around human worlds displayed defensive systems that could destroy entire fleets. "Our ancestors didn't create a peaceful civilization by abandoning war," Dr. Chen continued. "They created a peaceful civilization by becoming so overwhelmingly good at war that no one would ever dare challenge them. The Treaty of Universal Human Peace wasn't signed because we couldn't fight. It was signed because we had perfected fighting." Representative Martinez from the Kepler colonies raised her hand. "Dr. Chen, are you saying that our entire civilization is built on hidden weapons? That we've been living a lie for 3,000 years?" "No," Dr. Chen replied. "We've been living the truth. We are peaceful. We choose peace. But peace isn't the same thing as helplessness. Our ancestors built a civilization so secure, so protected, so utterly dominant that we could afford to be gentle. The Zephyrians just reminded us why they built those safeguards." Chancellor Vasquez was quiet for a long moment. Finally, she spoke. "Dr. Chen, you're recommending that we activate these hidden protocols? I'm recommending that we remember who we are. The Zephyrians have conquered 17 species, but they've never faced humanity before." The vote was unanimous. Within hours, messages went out to every human world, every station, every ship. Ancient codes were transmitted, codes that hadn't been used in millennia. Across human space, computers that had waited 3,000 years for activation began to wake up. On the agricultural world of New Eden, the grain processing facilities started producing something else entirely. Metal components that had been stored in forgotten warehouses began moving on automated systems toward assembly points. In the Centauri system, the elegant space stations that provided comfortable homes for millions of colonists began extending hidden sections, revealing weapon arrays and shield generators that had been built into their very foundations. The civilian research fleets received their activation codes and began the conversion process. Hulls that appeared to be simple exploration vessels opened to reveal military-grade weapon systems. Scientific sensors reconfigured themselves into tactical arrays capable of tracking enemy ships across entire star systems. And on Terra Prime, in the depths of the planet's military archives, Admiral Sarah Chen accepted her new commission. At 93, she was the last living human who had actually studied the art of warfare. The granddaughter of generals, the student of humanity's military history, she became the first active military commander humanity had seen in 3,000 years. Her first order was simple: wake them all up. Across 847 worlds, humanity began to remember what their ancestors had been capable of. The gentle researchers and peaceful farmers started accessing training programs that had been locked away for millennia. The scientists who had spent their lives studying stars and planets began learning about weapons and tactics. But most importantly, they began to understand the truth that Dr. Chen had tried to tell them. Humanity hadn't abandoned war because they were weak. They had abandoned war because they were too strong to need it. The Zephyrians had given them 7 days to surrender. They had no idea what was coming for them. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of Terra Prime, watching displays that showed the transformation of human civilization. 5 days had passed since the activation codes were sent out, and the results were beyond what even she had hoped for. "Admiral," reported Commander Jackson from the Luna shipyards, "the civilian fleet conversion is ahead of schedule. We've successfully activated military systems on 43% of our research vessels. The crews are adapting faster than expected to their new capabilities." Sarah nodded, studying the tactical displays. Each dot of light represented a human ship, and each ship was becoming something the Zephyrians had never encountered before. Dr. Marcus Webb, who had been appointed as the new Director of Strategic Intelligence, approached with a datapad in his hands. "Admiral, we're intercepting Zephyrian communications," he reported. "They're confused by what they're seeing. Our ship movements don't match their expectations of a panic response." "What are they saying?" Sarah asked. Marcus activated a translated recording. The hissing voice of a Zephyrian commander filled the room. "War Leader Thexkar, the human ships are behaving strangely. Instead of fleeing toward their core worlds, they're moving into formation patterns we don't recognize. Some appear to be approaching our advanced scouts," another voice responded. "Impossible. These creatures have no military experience. They're probably just confused by fear. Continue the advance toward their populated systems." Sarah smiled grimly. The Zephyrians were making the same mistake that countless enemies had made throughout human history. They were assuming that peace meant weakness. "Dr. Webb," she said, "show them exactly how wrong they are. Begin Phase 2. Across human space, the transformation accelerated. On the farming world of Ceres Prime, massive agricultural facilities completed their conversion to weapon manufacturing plants. The same automated systems that had produced food for millions of people were now creating something far more dangerous. Captain Maria Santos watched as her peaceful research vessel, the Harmony Explorer, revealed its true nature. Hidden panels slid away to expose weapon systems that could reduce an asteroid to atoms. Her gentle survey ship had become a predator. "Captain," her science officer reported, "all systems are coming online. The ship's computer is uploading tactical databases from the historical archives. Ma'am, some of these weapon specifications are incredible." Maria studied her new displays. The ship she had commanded for 10 years was revealing capabilities she never imagined. Energy shields that could withstand direct hits from stellar plasma, weapons that could fire projectiles at near light speed, sensors that could track a single ship across an entire solar system. But it wasn't just the technology that impressed her. The tactical databases contained 3,000 years of human military experience. Battle strategies developed during the Consolidation Wars, weapon designs that had never been needed, ship formations that had been theoretical until now. "Science Officer Chen," she said, "how many other ships in our sector have completed conversion?" 17, Captain. All research vessels in the local fleet. The mining ships are still in process, but they're revealing some impressive defensive capabilities. Maria activated her communication system. "This is Captain Santos to all vessels in Sector 7. Begin formation Delta 7 Alpha. It's time to show our visitors what human hospitality really looks like." Meanwhile, the Zephyrian Advance Fleet was having their own meeting. War Commander Kelthavar studied the reports from his scouts with growing confusion. "Sub-Commander," he hissed to his aide, "explain to me why the human vessels are not fleeing. Our intelligence indicated this species has been peaceful for thousands of years. Why are they moving toward our positions, War Commander? Perhaps they're attempting to surrender in person? Some species prefer face-to-face capitulation." Kelthavar considered this. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered 17 civilizations, and each had followed predictable patterns. First came the denial and disbelief, then panic as the reality set in. Finally, desperate attempts at negotiation followed by complete surrender. But the humans weren't following the pattern. Instead of fleeing, their ships were organizing into formations that looked almost military. "Sub-Commander, send a message to the human vessels approaching our scouts. Remind them that resistance is futile and will only result in more deaths like those at Proxima Station." The message was transmitted, but the response wasn't what they expected. Captain Santos received the alien communication and shared it with her fleet. The Zephyrian commander's voice was filled with the same arrogant confidence they had heard before. "Human vessels, you are approaching Zephyrian Imperial Navy ships. Turn away immediately or you will be destroyed. This is your final warning." Maria looked around her bridge. Her crew of scientists and researchers had become something different in the past 5 days. They had accessed training programs that taught them things their species had almost forgotten. They had learned about tactics and strategy, about honor and duty, about the heritage they carried in their genes. "Communications," she ordered. "Open a channel to the Zephyrian ships." Her response was broadcast not just to the alien vessels, but to every human ship in the sector. "Zephyrian vessels, this is Captain Maria Santos of the Terran Confederation Navy. You murdered 50,000 innocent people at Proxima Station. You threatened our worlds and our families. You made a very serious mistake." She paused, letting the words carry across space. "You assumed we were weak because we chose peace. You thought 3,000 years of harmony meant 3,000 years of helplessness. You were wrong. We didn't forget how to fight. We just stopped needing to." The channel remained open as her weapon systems powered up. On 17 other human ships in the sector, the same thing was happening. "This is your education, aliens. This is what happens when you threaten humanity." The first engagement lasted exactly 12 minutes. The Zephyrian scout fleet consisted of 6 heavily armed warships, veterans of multiple conquest campaigns. They had fought and defeated dozens of alien civilizations. They were completely destroyed. The human ships moved with precision that confused the aliens. Their weapons fired with accuracy that seemed impossible. Their shields absorbed punishment that should have vaporized them. But most confusing of all was their tactics. The humans fought with a coordination and strategic understanding that the Zephyrians had never encountered. It was as if each ship knew exactly what the others would do, as if they were all parts of a single deadly organism. When it was over, only one Zephyrian ship escaped to carry news back to their main fleet. Admiral Sarah Chen reviewed the battle reports with satisfaction. Across human space, similar engagements were taking place. Small Zephyrian forces were being wiped out by human ships that shouldn't have been able to fight at all. "Admiral," Dr. Webb reported, "we're intercepting more alien communications. They're calling for reinforcements from their main fleet. They're reporting that human capabilities are far beyond their intelligence estimates." Sarah nodded. "How long until their main force arrives at our core systems?" 48 hours based on their current approach vector." "Good," Sarah said. "That gives us time to prepare a proper welcome for them." She activated the fleet-wide communication system. All human vessels, all stations, all worlds. "This is Admiral Chen. The enemy is coming to our home systems. They think they're bringing a conquest fleet to crush a weak species. Show them what humanity really is. Show them why we chose peace." Across 847 worlds, the descendants of humanity's greatest warriors began their final preparations. The Zephyrians were about to learn why no one had dared challenge humanity for 3,000 years. The Zephyrian war fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system like an angry storm. 300 massive warships, each one a monument to conquest, arranged themselves in the traditional battle formation that had destroyed 17 civilizations. War leader Thex Kar stood in the command center of his flagship, studying the tactical displays with growing anger. The reports from his advanced scouts made no sense. Human ships fighting with impossible skill. Peaceful research vessels destroying veteran warriors. It was unacceptable. "Sub-Commander Vextar," he hissed. "What do our sensors show about the human home system?" "War leader, we detect approximately 200 human vessels in defensive positions. They appear to be the same type of research and civilian ships we've encountered before, though they're showing energy signatures consistent with military systems." Thexkar's scaled face twisted into what might have been a smile. 200 ships against our 300. These humans have courage, I'll give them that. But courage means nothing against superior firepower and experience. He activated the fleet communication system. "Warriors of the Empire, before us lies the human home system. These pathetic creatures think their converted research vessels can stand against the might of the Zephyrian fleet. We will show them the same mercy we showed at Proxima Station. No survivors. No prisoners. Complete extinction." The alien fleet began its advance toward Earth, confident in their numerical superiority and combat experience. Admiral Sarah Chen watched the approaching enemy from the bridge of her flagship, the Terra Invicta. Around her, The command crew worked with calm efficiency that would have surprised anyone who remembered them as civilian researchers just days before. "Admiral," reported Tactical Officer Commander Park, "the Zephyrian fleet is maintaining standard approach formation. 300 ships in 7 battle groups. They're not taking any unusual precautions," Sarah nodded. "They're still thinking of us as civilians pretending to be soldiers." "Dr. Webb, what are their communications saying?" Dr. Webb, now serving as intelligence coordinator, activated the translation systems. "They're confident, Admiral. Their commander is promising his fleet an easy victory. They believe they're facing desperate amateurs." "Perfect," Sarah said quietly. "Let's show them what amateurs can do. All ships implement Formation Omega-7. Activate all stealth systems. It's time for our guests to receive their education." The human fleet seemed to vanish from Zephyrian sensors. Advanced stealth technology, dormant for 3,000 years, made 200 human ships disappear like ghosts. On the Zephyrian flagship, alarms began sounding. "War Leader," Subcommander Vextar's voice cracked with panic. "The human fleet has disappeared from our sensors. We're showing empty space where they were moments ago." Vextar snarled. "Impossible. No species we've encountered has stealth technology advanced enough to hide from our scanners. Run full spectrum analysis." "We are, War Leader. All sensors are operating normally, but the human ships are simply gone." Vextar felt the first whisper of doubt creep into his mind. In 17 conquest campaigns, he had never encountered an enemy that could simply vanish. The human ships hadn't vanished. They had simply activated technology so advanced that the Zephyrians couldn't detect it. While the alien fleet continued their approach to what they thought was an empty system, 200 human vessels moved into position around them like predators stalking prey. Captain Maria Santos, now commanding a battle group of converted research vessels, watched her prey through sensors the Zephyrians couldn't even imagine. "All ships," she transmitted on secure channels, "maintain stealth protocols. Wait for the Admiral's signal." Her ship, the former Harmony Explorer, had become something that would have terrified her peaceful crew of just a week ago. But the training programs had done more than teach them how to fight. They had awakened something deeper, the genetic memory of a species that had conquered an entire planet through superior strategy and overwhelming force. Admiral Chen watched as the Zephyrian fleet moved deeper into the Sol system, walking directly into the trap that had been 3,000 years in the making. "All ship," she broadcast. "This is Admiral Chen. Our ancestors fought the most devastating wars in galactic history so that we could live in peace. They developed weapons and tactics so advanced that no enemy could threaten us. Today we honor their sacrifice. Today we remind the galaxy why humanity chose peace." She paused, watching the alien fleet approach the optimal firing position. "Begin Operation Awakening. Show them what we really are." 200 human ships dropped their stealth systems simultaneously, appearing around the Zephyrian fleet like materializing nightmares. But they didn't just appear. They appeared in perfect attack formation, with every alien ship targeted and locked. On the Zephyrian flagship, chaos erupted. "War Leader, human ships are appearing all around us. They've surrounded the entire fleet." Vextar stared at his displays in disbelief. The human ships hadn't just hidden from his sensors. They had used that concealment to achieve perfect tactical positioning. His entire fleet was trapped in a formation that left them vulnerable from every angle. "All ships, return fire immediately. These humans may have tricks, but we still outnumber them." The Zephyrian fleet opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams that could vaporize mountains lanced across space toward the human vessels, and accomplished nothing. The human ships absorbed the punishment with shields that seemed impossible. Energy that should have destroyed them simply vanished into defensive systems that operated on principles the Zephyrians didn't understand. Then, the humans fired back. Captain Santos watched as her weapons officer, a former botanist who had been studying plant genetics a week ago, triggered systems that turned their ship into an instrument of precise destruction. The human weapons didn't just destroy the Zephyrian ships, they disintegrated them at the molecular level. Energy beams that could rewrite matter at the quantum scale turned massive alien warships into expanding clouds of constituent atoms. But it wasn't just the weapons that terrified the Zephyrians. It was the tactics. The human ships moved with coordination that seemed impossible. They anticipated every alien maneuver, countered every desperate strategy, responded to every attempt at escape with brutal efficiency. The battle became a demonstration. The Zephyrians had superior numbers, veteran crews, and ships designed for conquest. None of it mattered. They were fighting an enemy that operated on levels of strategic thinking they couldn't even comprehend. Within 20 minutes, half the Zephyrian fleet was gone. Within 30 minutes, 3/4 had been destroyed. The remainder tried desperately to retreat, but the human ships pursued them with relentless precision. War leader Thexkar found himself aboard one of the few surviving ships, watching his mighty fleet being methodically annihilated by an enemy that shouldn't have been able to fight at all. "Sub-Commander," he whispered, "what are these creatures?" Vextar stared at the tactical displays showing human ships destroying veteran warriors with casual ease. "War leader, I don't think they're what we thought they were. This isn't a peaceful species that learned to fight. This is a warrior species that chose to stop fighting." The last Zephyrian ships limped away from the Sol system, carrying news of their defeat back to their empire. Behind them, the human fleet regrouped with minimal losses and no casualties. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in her command center, watching the retreat of what had once been the galaxy's most feared conquest fleet. "Dr. Webb," she said quietly, "open a channel to the surviving Zephyrian ships." Her message was brief and delivered in a tone that carried no anger, no hatred, only the quiet certainty of absolute victory. "Zephyrian survivors, you came here to conquer us. Instead, you've learned something about humanity. We are not peaceful because we're weak. We're peaceful because we're strong enough to choose peace. Return to your empire. Tell them what you've seen. And remember that we could have destroyed every one of your ships. But we chose to let some of you live." The channel closed, leaving the retreating aliens to contemplate their education. But Admiral Chen wasn't finished with the lesson. She activated the fleet-wide communications. "All ships set course for Zephyrian space. It's time we had a conversation with their empire about the price of threatening innocent people." The human fleet began moving towards Zephyrian territory, no longer defenders but teachers carrying a very important lesson to an entire alien civilization. The human fleet moved through space like a tide of awakened power. What had begun as 200 ships defending the Sol system had grown as they traveled towards Zephyrian space. Every human world they passed added vessels to their formation, until Admiral Sarah Chen commanded not just a military force, but a migration of humanity's rediscovered strength. Dr. Marcus Webb stood beside the Admiral in the command center of the Terra Invicta, watching the tactical displays that showed their approach to the Zephyrian home system. "Admiral," he reported, "we now have over 800 ships in the fleet. Colony worlds that haven't participated in military actions for 3,000 years are sending everything they have." Sarah nodded, studying the data streams flowing across her screens. "It's not just about the Zephyrians anymore, is it? Humanity is remembering what we used to be." "Yes, ma'am. The psychological impact has been remarkable. People who spent their entire lives as farmers and researchers are accessing genetic memories that go back to the consolidation wars. They're remembering that peace was a choice, not a weakness. The Zephyrian home system lay ahead, protected by the remnants of their once mighty fleet. Word of the human advance had spread through their empire, causing panic among a species that had never faced defeat. Emperor Krexthul, the supreme leader of the Zephyrian Empire, stood in his war room surrounded by his remaining military commanders. The reports they brought made no sense to him. "General Vorthak," the Emperor hissed, "explained to me how 300 veteran warships were defeated by converted civilian vessels." The general, one of the few survivors of the Sol system battle, trembled as he spoke. "My Emperor, these humans are not what our intelligence indicated. They fight with technologies we cannot understand and tactics we have never encountered. Their ships move as if controlled by a single mind. Their weapons operate on principles that rewrite the laws of physics." "Impossible," the Emperor snarled. "No species is that advanced. Our conquest of 17 civilizations proves our superiority." "My Emperor," another survivor spoke up, "with respect, those 17 civilizations never fought back effectively. The humans, they fight as if warfare is an art form they perfected long ago." Emperor Krexthul turned to his chief intelligence officer. "What do our historical databases tell us about humanity's past?" "My Emperor, our records indicate they achieved peace over 3,000 years ago, after a period they call the Consolidation Wars. We assumed this meant they had evolved beyond violence and became easy targets. And now, my Emperor, I believe we misunderstood what achieving peace meant. They didn't abandon warfare because they were weak. They abandoned it because they had become too powerful to need it. The Zephyrian home fleet, consisting of their remaining 400 ships, took defensive positions around their homeworld. They had never fought a defensive battle before, having always been the aggressors in their conquests. Admiral Chen's fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyrian system, like an avalanche of controlled power. 800 human ships arranged themselves in formations that looked more like works of art than military deployments. Admiral, Commander Park reported, the Zephyrian fleet is in standard defensive formation around their homeworld. 400 ships, including their remaining heavy cruisers and battleships. Sarah studied the alien positions through sensors that could analyze enemy ship designs down to the molecular level. They're brave, I'll give them that. Facing impossible odds and still willing to fight for their home. Dr. Webb looked up from his intelligence station. Admiral, we're receiving a communication from the Zephyrian Emperor. He's requesting negotiation. Put him through. The holographic image of Emperor Krexthul appeared in the command center. The alien leader looked older than in their previous intelligence files, as if the stress of facing humanity had aged him rapidly. Human Admiral, he began, his voice lacking the arrogant confidence they had heard before. I am Emperor Krexthul of the Zephyrian Empire. I propose we discuss terms for ending this conflict. Sarah studied the alien leader for a moment before responding. Emperor, your forces attacked our civilians without provocation. You murdered 50,000 innocent people to make a point. What terms did you have in mind? We withdraw from all human space. We cease all hostile actions against your species. In return, you spare our homeworld. And the other 17 civilizations you conquered? The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. What? What do you mean? I mean, Emperor, that humanity doesn't just protect itself. We protect others. You're going to release every species you've enslaved, return every world you've stolen, and make reparations for every life you've taken. That would mean the end of our empire. Sarah's voice remained calm but carried an undertone that made every alien on the receiving end feel cold. Emperor, your empire was built on murder and conquest. Yes, we're ending it. The negotiation was over. The final battle of the Zephyrian Empire began moments later. But it wasn't really a battle. It was a demonstration of the difference between a species that had learned to fight and a species that had perfected fighting. The human fleet engaged the Zephyrian defenders with tactics so advanced that military historians would study them for centuries. They didn't just defeat the alien ships. They dismantled them with surgical precision that turned each enemy vessel into a lesson in superior strategy. Captain Maria Santos, now commanding a full battle group, watched as her former research vessel executed maneuvers that would have been impossible for any conventional ship. The Harmony Explorer moved through space like liquid light, its weapons striking enemy targets with perfect accuracy, while its shields absorbed return fire without strain. Captain, her weapons officer reported, enemy resistance is collapsing. Their ships can't match our speed, firepower, or tactical coordination. Maria nodded but felt no satisfaction in the destruction. Remember, we're not here for revenge. We're here to teach a lesson, minimal casualties when possible. Across the human fleet, similar orders were being followed. The goal wasn't genocide or conquest. It was education. The last Zephyrian ship surrendered after 2 hours of one-sided combat. Emperor Krexthul's flagship hung dead in space, its engines disabled and its weapons destroyed, but its crew still alive. Admiral Sarah Chen opened a communication channel that reached not just the defeated Zephyrian fleet, but every listening post in the galaxy. What she said next would be remembered across 1,000 worlds. People of the galaxy, she began, her voice carrying clearly across space. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Confederation. Today, the Zephyrian Empire learned something about humanity. We are not a peaceful species because we're weak. We're peaceful because we chose to be. The transmission included complete records of the battle, showing human capabilities that most galactic civilizations couldn't even comprehend. For 3,000 years, humanity lived in harmony because we had achieved something beyond victory. We had achieved certainty. We knew that no enemy could threaten us, so we had the luxury of being gentle. Today we were forced to remember why that certainty existed. She paused, letting her words reach every corner of the galaxy. The Zephyrian Empire is ended. The species they enslaved are free. The worlds they conquered are returned to their rightful owners. But we take no pleasure in this destruction. We would have preferred to remain at peace. The transmission shifted to show historical records of humanity's past. The consolidation wars, the development of weapons that could crack planets, the evolution of tactics that turned warfare into an exact science. This is what we were. This is what we chose to leave behind. We spent 3,000 years proving that the strongest warriors are those who don't need to fight. But when forced to defend the innocent, we will remind the galaxy why we were allowed to choose peace in the first place. The message concluded with a simple statement that would echo across galactic civilization for generations. Humanity sleeps lightly. We suggest you let us dream. In the aftermath, the galaxy grew very quiet. Species that had been planning aggressive expansions quietly canceled their military programs. Warlike civilizations suddenly discovered the benefits of diplomacy. Pirates and raiders found peaceful occupations. The human fleet began its journey home, leaving behind a galaxy that had learned an important lesson about the difference between weakness and strength. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in her command center one last time as they approached Earth, watching the peaceful blue world that had spawned the most successful predator species the galaxy had ever known. "Dr. Webb," she said quietly, "send the stand-down orders to all human worlds. Begin converting the fleet back to civilian configurations. It's time to go back to sleep." "Yes, Admiral. And the military protocols?" Sarah smiled sadly. "Lock them away again. Hide them behind the same codes and safeguards our ancestors used. Humanity has remembered what we're capable of. That should be enough to ensure we don't need to remember again." The great human war machine began to fold itself back into peaceful configurations. Research vessels resumed their scientific missions. Agricultural worlds returned to feeding the galaxy's peaceful species. The weapons of war disappeared behind layers of security and time. But across the galaxy, in the darkest corners of space where aggressive species planned their conquests, the memory of humanity's awakening served as an eternal warning. The most dangerous warrior was indeed one who had nothing left to prove. And humanity had just proven they had nothing left to prove.